Hello, and welcome to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show that dives into all things TTRPG. Today we got a lot of news, TTRPG industry news for you. A lot of really interesting things and a few topics that I think we're going to be able to really get into that are important, I think more for the creator slash game master side, but of course that trickles down to the players. As always, though, I'm not alone. I'm here with my good friend and partner, Zach. Zach, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about some role playing games. Life has been brutal, so I am really excited to talk about a fun subject. And I really like how well our new routine is working out of the news and then a topic episode and recording two in one sitting. Like, this has been working really well for us. So I'm glad we've been able to be consistent.
Yeah, and I think the way that we are taking our breaks, it's a little industry, it's a hobby, it's niche.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we keep it fresh. We see things,
Yeah.
we take a little break, we let it build up, and then we jump into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we do got some interesting things. There's just some things that I think today, Zach, that you as a content creator, me as a content creator, are really gonna like find interesting from like the little guy, but also all the way out just us little guys looking at the big guys swinging their clubs.
Yeah.
It all affects. And I think it's really some fascinating stuff. Are you ready to jump into some of this?
I'm very ready. Very excited and ready.
Okay, so this one's interesting. And I'm going to ask you, take a breath. There are some topics in here that we have discussed in the past that I know are somewhat infuriating to my co-host.
Oh no.
This first one, and excuse me, everybody out there, if I cough a little bit, I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. I have my tea. I have a little bit of a sore throat from illness. I'm going to do what I can, and I think I can keep it managed.
Soldiering through, everybody. Soldiering through.
That's right. Okay, so the first one, this is an interesting one. Okay, so we have talked about in the past Kickstarter being an important part of the RPG industry today. It's an important part of a lot of startup niche hobbies that are trying to turn into businesses just generally. And that is exactly how you would describe RPGs for the most part. The majority of the industry is niche. But Kickstarter is a little bit of a challenger, and there's a really interesting move that's going on right now. It's called BackerKit, and it has just signed on with Drive-thru RPG, which again, I know, Zach, we've had all kinds of complicated relationships with Drive-thru RPG, but one of the big things, the reason why is because they are kind of the monopoly on distribution of RPGs. So this exactly, and BackerKit is now moving in to support TTRPG designers to crowdfund money to get them funds and automatically have releases, updates, everything wrapped into Drive-thru RPG's platform. So it's like Drive-thru RPG has a new branch attached to it for this new different crowdfunding program specifically designed and focused on RPG developers and indie game developers.
I think that's good. I mean, look, I know I have ranted about drive-thru games in the past because my experience with them was not as positive as maybe some other people. And in fairness, though, I think, and I don't know if I said this back when I was ranting about it, but I would say that my experience is a fairly niche experience. I think overall, a lot of people are very happy with drive-thru games and the platform as how they sell things. I think it makes some things a little bit more difficult than you think it does. And I also think that its service is not as easy or as inexpensive to use as you would think it is. But I think, again, like I said, my experience is very niche with how it produced my stuff. I think the majority of people using drive-through games are not using it in the way that I necessarily tried to use it, and because of that, they are not going to necessarily have the problems that I had. And I think that drive-through games does serve a purpose. I mean, it does allow indie games to get much more exposure, to get out there, to get sold, and it is a huge platform. The thing that worries me the most about it is the fact that it's kind of like Steam for PC gaming. Like, if you're buying video games, you're buying them through Steam. Everything else is second fiddle and barely even thought of. I mean, you could go to GOG or you could go to Epic, but those storefronts aren't nearly as versatile or usable as Steam. So one of the problems with that, though, is Steam gets to control a lot of stuff. They get to control prices. They get to control where things are produced. They get to, just the other day, they won a chicken match with Ubisoft, which is a huge AAA video game company, because Ubisoft was going to start releasing their games a week ahead of time on their own PC service called Ubisoft Plus. And Steam was like, if you do that, we will delist you from Steam. And Ubisoft was like, okay, we won't do it. So, like, that kind of stuff is something that is very possible from drive-through games. And I think one of the big problems that we face as independent developers, whether in the video game space or the TTRPG space, is these companies, all of them, want to present themselves as your friend. They're not your friend. And that's something that I think we need to all keep in mind, especially with drive-through games. Right now, drive-through games, if you are a TTRPG person and you are going to try and find an independent supplement or game, where are you going?
Drive-through. That is probably the first place that you have to go.
I mean,
even if you just look up online, I want to play a interstellar game that takes place on Jupiter. Yeah. Google is going to send you to drive-through. If that game exists, it's on drive-through. Google is going to send you there.
And then you might get an itch later on, but like overall, it's drive-through games. It's drive-through games. That's where you're getting independent games. So I think
I want you to hold this in mind, by the way. I have another article about drive-through that we're going to go into later. Unfortunately, but you're making good points here, man.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is drive-through, and good on the business owners of drive-through. They saw a need for something in a space where there was no need, and they filled that need, and they filled it so well that it makes it impossible for somebody else to compete with them. But the problem is nobody's competing with them, and competition makes choices. Competition makes things good for a consumer. In a capitalist market, that's how you get good prices. That's how you get good stuff. That's how you get good service. Right now, drive-through can tell anybody and everybody to fuck themselves on anything and everything they want to, and you still have to go to them because there's nowhere else to go. And that's a problem.
It's one of those weird things.
Go ahead.
It's one of those weird things where, like,
subject, I realize, but
no, like this actually makes sense, and it actually segues really well into my thoughts as well, and specifically how backer kit is good and bad at the same time in a weird way. Like, it's this weird thing. Drive-thru's been around, I think, since like 2003 or something. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it's around that time. It's been time, over 2 decades. So drive-thru's been around for a really long time, and it's this weird thing where it starts off as this really niche thing. The internet was brand new, and it's this cycle. It's like a snake eating its own tail, where it provides value to the DMs or the game developers that are coming up with their own stuff, and that then allows them to provide value to the customers by creating cool new things, and then that makes drive-thru more valuable in itself, and it's like it just feeds itself, and it keeps growing and growing and growing and growing to the point where maybe it gets so big, things kind of get lost in this huge ecosystem, including things like just treating people like people, because it's so massive now. Like, you have all of these different moving parts. It's a giant. It goes from a bicycle to a complex steam engine.
Yep.
And backer kit is now like attaching a new module to the Steam engine. It's a new aspect to this huge monolith. But at the same time, BackerKit really looks like it's going to provide value.
Yes.
Where people would go to Kickstarter and set up like a crowdfunding and all of these things, they can all hone it into a place where they are sending out updates about their content directly on Drive-thru and issuing like little like pre-launches to people. All of the stuff that you would have gotten from any other crowdfunder, it's now all wrapped into Drive-thru, where you can easily just drop it down and add it to your library. Obviously, that's good for Drive-thru. BackerKit is getting Drive-thru's name attached to it, so it's good for BackerKit, and it's good for GMs or I keep saying GMs, game developers, indie game developers, because they're able to like use all of these tools in one place. The problem is, what the problem always is, it's so big. How do you stand out? How do you make yourself a thing? How do you compete with some of the big indie games, or even just the big companies out there like Magpie or whatnot? It's complicated. But whatever ends up happening, it is important, and I think it's going to make some effects downstream and in the immediate. And if nothing else, I think if you are a game developer out there, you got to check this out. You got to know about it. It's if nothing else, it's important to your industry. So just understand what's happening there.
My biggest problem with Drive-thru games, and I think, like I said, I think this is great for BackerKit and for developers, but it still feeds the beast in the fact that when you sign up for Drive-thru games, when your game, you are legally obligated to only sell your game on Drive-thru games.
Well, you are able to sell your game other places, but you lose a bigger cut of the profits that you make on Drive-thru. Like, it goes from like 20% up to 60%.
Yeah.
It's a
huge loss of funds. Like, that's something that bothers me, and that's something I think people need to be aware of. If you're going to Drive-thru to just get your game published, that's not a bad place to go, especially since you can get your game published. Just order the publishing of your game and not even sell it on their marketplace. You could sell it somewhere else. But like, if I decided to try and sell one of my games on Amazon, I have to completely change the agreement that I made with Drive-thru games, and when I change that agreement, prices go way up. You lose a way more bigger cut when something gets printed from them to somewhere else. It is a huge issue, because they want to turn the faucets off on you using them to sell the game somewhere else, which is my biggest problem with them. All the games that I've published on Itch, I can sell them anywhere. Period.
Right.
Itch does not give a shit. Itch works on donations. Donations, basically. When you can set your game price to donate some of their profits to them. Like, that's how they work. So, like, they don't care what you do with your thing. It's completely 100% yours. I think that, like, that's my biggest problem with Drive-thru games, and that's a big problem with the BackerKit overall. It does help people, and it helps the Kickstarter situation, but at the same time, it drives everything on Kickstarter through Drive-thru, because it's just, they've made this platform like, well, where else are you going to sell it? So like, now you've got this thing where like it funnels even more of your stuff from Kickstarter there. And I'm very worried about it, because at the end of the day, if you're an independent person and you need to put your stuff on Kickstarter to get money, now it's going to feel like not only do you have to put your stuff on Kickstarter, but you have to agree to some sort of sales agreement with Drive-thru to even get it out there. And I think that that's a big problem. It's almost predatory in that way to me, because your developer is going out there, and before he's just going out there looking for money to sell it wherever. But now you've made this thing where, like, if you don't do the BackerKit, you see what I'm saying? It's another hamstringing of somebody who's already kind of desperate just to get the product out of there. And that, to me, is a little predatory. It's like, oh, So you want to sell an RPG, you know, and they just come in wringing their hands. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what they're trying to do, but
Right.
that's just the negative side of it to me is you have this beast in the TTRPG independent space, and everything seems to just feed that beast.
Yeah. This is so weird. So I knew that this was going to merge in a weird way. I actually have several articles that are going to do this. This actually is exactly the perfect segue into the next
segue. Let's do it.
Because it's almost the same story. Like everything you said is actually just as relevant for what I'm about to say.
All right.
There is actually a new RPG marketplace that is actually entering the field. It's called RPG Trader. I'm looking up. I can't see in my notes if it's already been released or it's coming up really soon, dropping really soon, and they're building it up. But it's basically a RPG marketplace like Drive-thru that's new and is specifically designed just for, you know, tabletop role-playing games, downloading PDFs, maps, all that stuff. Whereas, like, you know, Itch is great, but it's not really as like tailored to the RPG industry as Drive-thru was, and so
Itch was made for video games. That's what people don't realize.
Exactly.
Itch was actually originally made for video games, and then they realized they could do TTRPGs, and then a lot of people went there because of their scale. But like, the overwhelming amount of content on Itch is digital video games, independent video games.
Right. And like, this is a new marketplace that is going to be specifically for RPGs. It is launching to be big. It's launching to have a library the same way that Drive-thru does. So you can buy your games on there. You can go back and re-download them whenever you want. They are sort of pitching that the revenue split is going to be lower than what it was with Drive-thru. So they're really basically setting themselves up specifically to be an alternative to Drive-thru. They want to be a Drive-thru that's not Drive-thru, that fixes everything that people have a problem with Drive-thru. That is their pitch. It's called Drive-thru Trader. And you know, this is coming out at the same time as this, you know, backer kit is happening over at Drive-thru. The same time that the industry has been growing, Dungeons and Dragons have been suffering. People are Dagger Heart is, you know, changing people's perspective on RPGs generally. This might be the best time for a new company to try to make a play for the throne, so to speak.
Okay. I think that's great. I would be interested to see what they do and how they set themselves apart from Drive-thru. Like, I think they could really set themselves apart if they streamlined the publishing aspect of it a little bit more, because that's very second fiddle to Drive-thru, in my opinion. Like, they don't, like, there's an option there. Obviously, I published my game, but I don't think they care about that as much as their digital. I think they make all of the revenue off the digital. That's what they do there. So I'll be very interested to see how they make money and how they set themselves apart. Like, what are the philosophies that are going to change? I think it has to be more than just you get a bigger cut. You know, I think you have to, like, if they really want to succeed, I think they should give developers freedom, a little bit more freedom in how and where they put their games out, and their agreements. Like, I think that's how you kind of compete with Drive-thru, in my opinion, and I'll see how it does. Because, look, man, there have been a lot of contenders to Steam in the video game space. A lot of contenders. And every one of them have been slapped down into a ditch so fast it makes their head spin. And every one of them comes out and goes, "We're going to be the Steam." And no, you're not. So, like, I think that, like, there is... I mean, and even one of them was a company called Epic, which is an evil-ass company taking on another evil-ass company, so damned if you do. But Epic actually tried to get people on their storefront by actually making certain games exclusive to Epic. They actually did, because they were like a parent company. So they were like, fuck Steam. You want to play on PC? You play it here on Epic. And they still don't make anywhere near the money that Steam does. So like, I think that like at the end of the day, and actually it hurt the video games that were coming out through Epic. They didn't make the sales on PC that they would have because people didn't want to use Epic. Epic was literally giving away 3 free games every month.
Oh wow!
Just to try and compete. And honestly, I had an Epic account so I could get those free games, and that was it. Like, because it wasn't a very good service. So like, I think that like, whereas Steam is a great service that allows you to really manage your games on your computer, not just a place to buy them. And I think that like, that's really the question here. Like, how does RPG Trader compete with the beast, the eldritch horror that is Drive-thru games? And I don't know that they can do that. We'll have to see.
Yeah. We will have to see. I don't know either. I am excited that there's all this happening right now. I think it's almost, if nothing else, man, if you like watch it closely and you keep reading about it, it almost starts to feel like corporate Game of Thrones. You know, like with all of these different players moving back and forth. So if nothing else, if you like that kind of stuff, it's worth watching. But it also kind of means that things are jostling, things are changing, things are happening, and maybe there's an opportunity out there for the little guys to get something. We'll see.
Well, and one of the nice things about TTRPGs, and one of the reasons I really enjoy doing this podcast, is because when I talk about the video games on the Video Game Podcast, they're evil companies. Like, evil companies doing evil shit. And, like, every week it's like, 3,000 people lost their jobs so that CEOs could make money. And then we even had, like, sexual misconduct and stuff like that we had to report on. And, like, when you come to the TTRPG side, it's like, trying to say Drive-thru games is like a big evil company is even hard for me, because you compare them to the big evil companies that I talk about on the video game side, not even remotely in the ballpark. So like, it is nice that like the Game of Thrones stuff over here on the TTRPG side, really the worst shit is limited to Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, and everybody else seems to be doing okay, even when they're being kind of evil, So I don't know. I mean, and at the end of the day, Drive-thru Games is a company. They're there to protect their own interests. And why wouldn't they want an agreement where you have to sell through them? Like, that's part of, it's capitalism. We live in a capitalistic society. People are going to be capitalistic. It just is how you get rewarded here. So like, company gonna company, if I were to compare Drive-thru games though to like Steam or Xbox or any of the other game companies, like Drive-thru games is still a great company. Like comparatively,
I get you. I do. It's really not that bad. I've had some frustrations with them as well. I haven't liked, certain aspects. There are also things that I really enjoyed and appreciated about them. It is what it is. Now we have some things happening. It's going to be there. This is one of those things where it's just so hard. You cannot really like get like a satisfying like 100% answer, but at the same time, stay tuned because things are happening. There's some moving and some shaking, and it's something to watch.
I really want to see RPG Trader, like how they can be like to me, I think they need a different philosophy than Drive-thru games. They need to bring something different to the shopping experience, to the publishing experience, to the rights experience. It needs to be more. That's all I'm saying. It needs to be more than, oh, well, they offer you 20%, we offer you 25, or whatever. Like, like we need to have it needs to be better than just trying to undercut them, because honestly, Drive-thru will just cut their prices and eat them alive,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we'll see. We will see. At some point we might end up doing a deep dive into just that. Once they get going and we can start to play with it.
Oh yeah.
I definitely am going to get in there and play with it. But in the meantime, I got a couple more articles of news that I think are going to be interesting. This is, the next set of articles is like the last set in that They are all sort of connected
That's
together.
great. Makes
They're
a
not
good
directly.
podcast.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're not directly the same story,
Mm-hmm.
but they all sort of are close enough related where you have to kind of think about all three of them within context of each other.
Right.
So I'm going to try and just explain all three real quick,
Okay.
and see where the the chips fall, where the dice roll.
I will try and keep my mouth shut the entire time.
Aha. It's this is another one where we've had some debates about certain issues, and this
Okay.
one is going to be the IP debate that we've discussed quite a bit in the past. Where we have I've also talked about this particular release, which is coming very very soon in the past. Invincible, popular show on Prime, I think right now. A superhero animated show. I read the comics. I love the comics. I think it's actually one of my favorite comics of all time.
It's a great comic.
And what's that?
I already failed to shut up. It's a great comic, is what I said.
It is.
I read
It is.
most of it. I think I read the first 70 issues or something like that.
And the thing that one of the things I love about it, it concludes over a course of a huge arc. So you get like almost an epic novel in a comic book form that has a real ending to it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Batman that's been going on forever and is never going to have a real conclusion.
It doesn't make sense. How is he a middle-aged 30-something man and has raised 4 full-grown children of different ages? It does not make sense.
No, not in the least bit. Not in the least bit. So it's a great IP. They are getting their own RPG. It is based off of the I think it was Year Zero engine, if I remember right. The pre-orders are opening now, so you're able to actually order this ahead of time. Get your little extras for ordering ahead of time, all the other stuff. Let's see, it's made by Free League. Yeah, that's what it was. Here's where it blends into something else that's actually happening in a similar space. Masks is getting an update. We're getting a new publication of the Masks RPG from Magpie, I believe. And that is, again, a superhero-focused game. It's all about superheroes and the like. You build a superhero, you grow in your superpowers as you develop your character across the storyline. So these two major superhero RPG franchises are hitting the world. We have one that's coming from an IP of comics. We have one that's been in the RPG, is solely an RPG system, but focused on superheroes. It's coming at a time when superhero movies have been kind of crashing in the box office, and they're being developed adjacent to each other. They're different systems. I kind of half wondered, why not release Invincible in the Masks system instead of Year Zero, because we already have an RPG system that is designed for superheroes. I guess Masks is more of a system that is designed for developing a superhero from the scratch bottom up, and you can make your own superheroes in the Invincible game, and you can play characters from the Invincible game if you wanted to. And of course, there's leveling up and all that stuff, so that exists too. But they're very different systems. The Invincible game is more tactical based. It's more like a typical RPG, where you level up and you get certain abilities, and you can like slot them up and stuff like that. Whereas Masks is more of a narrative focus. You get more powers by developing your character and developing the story, and your characters grow. It's almost like you're supposed to be a teenage superhero, so it's almost like a coming of age story with powers, which is honestly, I personally think would work great for a mature version of Invincible, because the IP has him growing as an individual across a huge amount of time. He becomes a father at one point. You can very easily have changes of life and increasing powers as a part of that type of IP, from more of an adult perspective. But they went with Magpie and Zero Engine instead. All of this is happening at the same time, and yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting confluence, coming together of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we have talked about this a couple of times, and like one thing I really don't like in the RPG space is the fact that you have these fly-by-night, like, oh, that's popular, let's make a TTRPG about it, and instead of putting it into another system or finding a company to adapt the source material, they just make a random new game, and like, it worries me because TTRPG, it's like video game logic, right? It's like, oh, we've got this, we got to make a video game. But TTRPG people are not video game people. Not the way they enjoy TTRPGs. There are very few TTRPG people who are like collecting systems just to collect systems. Like, I think that like one of the huge problems that faces this kind of behavior is finding an audience. Because how many systems have you played in your life? Like, and I'm talking about regularly played more than one session.
Maybe at most a dozen.
A dozen.
Less than that.
A dozen, and you review RPGs for the internet.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm talking about. You would be the higher end of that spectrum, and you're talking about like 12, 13 tops, right?
I know this is like the majority of my life outside of work and family and responsibilities.
Are you counting systems that I've invented?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so
100%.
If I were to not count homebrewed systems, I've played like 5. So like, I think that like, and I'm 44 and I've been playing role-playing games for 30 years. People get very attached to a system and a system they love. It is a warm blanket, okay? It's a warm blanket for the players. They like that. Look, man, I've been playing in that garage now for like 4 or 5 years, and a good portion of it has been World of Darkness stuff. Has it been because everybody wants to necessarily play World of Darkness? No, it's because everybody's been playing World of Darkness. So that's what everybody comes back to. It's a warm blanket. It's a system they understand. They've been playing it since teenage, so they know it. They don't necessarily want to try and figure out the new rules while building a character. And like, I think that that's something that you have to look at it. You have to look at every TTRPG player as a curmudgeon, like an old curmudgeon who likes things their way. And I don't think that these games speak to them. What person who is an Invincible fan and a TTRPG fan is going to put down their superhero game to pick up Invincible?
Oh, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is at most they will buy the Invincible game because they like Invincible, and they will put it on a shelf, and then they will go and use their normal superhero game to homebrew a setting that looks like Invincible.
So
that's what they'll do.
At the end of the day, why don't we just take Invincible? We take that IP. We give a company that already exists, that needs more attention, the rights to adapt it to their system. And I don't understand why that isn't, like, Invincible works perfect for Fate. I mean, now that I've read Fate, I think everything works perfect for Fate. Stay tuned for the next episode. But like, I think that like it's one of those things where like we keep just chucking these RPGs out at people, just vomiting them out at people. And what purpose do they serve? At least Daggerheart was like a narrative alternative to Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like that's the idea behind it anyway. Like, so at least it serves a purpose. But you have all these IP-based RPGs that are just getting hurled at people, and I don't understand, like, are they making money? I mean, I guess they must be in some way, or people wouldn't be doing that, but who is going out and buying a TTRPG every week of these IPs? I don't get it, and I don't understand why we have that. I also agree with you. I don't think that Invincible is necessarily benefited. I don't think superhero games are benefited by a heavy stat system. I just don't. I think superheroes are just not a thing that should exist in heavy stats, because when you get into like levels and heavy stats, it defeats the purpose of what a superhero comic or even movie is supposed to look like,
And that is so counterintuitive, but it's also so true. Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to collect comic cards, believe it or not. They still had them. And they had different types, and one of the sets they had, I remember, had the character on one side, and on the back side, they had stats for that character.
Yeah.
And they'd have like power level, they have a little description of what they can do. And I loved it. I thought it was fun. It wasn't a card game. It was just something fun, like almost like a baseball card.
Yep.
And the stats for the character. I love those, but at the same time, looking back on it, realizing it, reading a lot of comics, those stats were bullshit. I mean, like, these characters, their power levels swing wildly all over the place.
Wildly. Right.
I mean, like, if you even just take, like forget Superman and Green Lantern for a second. You take a character like Gambit, at 1 minute, he's just like a guy that throws exploding cards. He's basically a grenade thrower. The next minute, he has, like, the ability to jump all over the place. He has fast, like, reflexes. He can, like, twist his cards around corners, all kinds of crazy stuff, just depending on the storyline he gets.
Yep.
Those stats are BS. They're just BS.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It depends on the writing. Plus, it depends on the creativity. Like, how do you use the powers? It's always been, to me, the coolest part of, like, superheroes is not necessarily, like, the power. It's like, how do you take that power and twist it into something really cool and interesting and different, know? And how do you tactically use that? You can't make up a system for that, like a tactical based system for that. It's got to be narrative. And I think that, like, I mean, and I'm not saying that there's no merit to tactically played or very rules heavy superhero games. I'm sure there's people out there playing. I'm not trying to, like, attack you. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if they have that tactical RPG like Heroes Unlimited or whatever, are they going to put that down to pick up Invincible? I don't think so. Are they going to put down Aberrant to pick up Invincible? Are they going to put down the Mutants Mayhem or whatever? I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think you learn a whole new system for that. A whole new system is somebody reading an entire giant book, understanding that entire giant book, then explaining that entire giant book to a room full of people, and then making characters for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's an undertaking.
I do.
It's not.
I do.
I don't know. I just, like, yeah.
What I think I would like to do, what I would like to see, my ideal, I'd like to see what we're seeing here in reverse. This is kind of like, I've said it multiple times in the past, Dungeons & Dragons in the 80s and early 90s made most of their money from books, novels that they were selling. Entertainment.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many RPG books that you can actually sell.
Right.
And so they turn them into novels. I think it would be really great if they were to do that with a game like Masks, where you have a world that you really build out richly with the opportunity to make fun individual games in an RPG setting for superheroes like Masks does. And then you create an IP from that as a comic book. Yeah. It's a fun transition. It would be a fun way to lure, people into the Masks world.
Yeah.
You get some really solid indie writers on it. Give them an opportunity. You're already an indie space game. That would be the way to go. I think that would be the way to branch out and expand your IP, not from an outside source coming in, but from you as a game designer that lets people make their own stories out.
Yeah. I mean, that was one nice thing, and this is going to make me sound like an old guy, but that was one nice thing about RPGs back in the 90s and 80s, is you had like 4 systems, and anything that came out got adapted to one of those 4 systems. You know what I mean? Like, you had TSR, you had Palladium, you had World of Darkness, and you had like 1 or 2 others, and it was like, if it came out, that's where it went. I have a Street Fighter game over here somewhere, that World of Darkness, Street Fighter. Like, that White Wolf made the Street Fighter RPG. Yeah, and it was fun. I loved it. I mean, it was not great once you got old and realized that it wasn't a great adaptation. But
I'm not sure World of Darkness would have been my first call on the adaptation, but
right,
screw it.
They added this whole extra card mechanic too, which is nuts. But aside from that, like that's what you did. Robotech, Palladium, TMNT, Palladium. Like you had these like when you wanted an IP, you found a system that had that IP, and that's what you learned. It was one of those like 5 systems, and that's what you did. Like that's what you had. I think that like now you have to learn a whole new game to play that IP or make it up yourself, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm not saying that systems shouldn't come out. As a person who writes systems, like I want new systems out there in the world. I want choices. But at the same time, I don't want you to release a system just for a thing. I want you to release a system that you believe in that's going to like power your games. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's
I agree.
And a lot of these systems have like fucked up dice that you've got to buy with it. I remember wanting to get the Fallout RPG, but you had to buy special Fallout dice to play the fucking thing. And I'm like, come on, man. Now I got to buy special dice to play the game? Like, that's bullshit. Like, I think that like...
You can't start off gouging your customers and nickel and diming them for all the little stuff.
Right.
You have to wait until you're popular before you start nickel and diming your customers. Come on, guys.
At least with Fate, they have very clearly written in the book conversion rules for just normal D6s, so you don't have to buy the plus minus dice. I still bought them.
It's super easy to make that conversion. Super easy. As soon as you wrap your brain around it, you're done.
Yeah, agreed. It's very, very frustrating to me how they do that. That's really all I got to say about it.
So, is that the time for us today?
I mean, we're at 41 minutes. We've got an episode in if you're out of news stories.
Why don't we call it for today? I think this might be a good time to segue out to our outro. We got some good, interesting things out there. Things for people to think about. Things for game developers to really like munch on all kinds of fronts. Let's see where all of this stuff ends up rolling. We got some things that I want to keep an eye on. Everything we talked about today is just the beginning of that story. And there's more to come. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, in the future. Yeah. Before we head out of here, Zach, is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to plug out there?
Well, I definitely want to plug our next episode. In 2 weeks, we're doing a deep dive on this guy. Since we can actually, since we're the way we're recording, we know what we're going to record after the news one. We're going to do a deep dive on Fate, and I am very excited to bare my soul about my experience with that game. Other than that, you can check out everything the channel has to offer. I think by the time you're seeing this, our third hunt of Ordo Scriptorium will be out in its entirety on both Spotify and YouTube. I very much urge you to go view that. That's our actual play in single mod. And I am extremely proud of that whole arc. I did some extra scenes for each game, kind of NPC meta scenes that the players didn't even get to see. So I did a lot of, I did use some weird pictures from the internet, but I did some pictures. I'm very proud of the quality of those 6 episodes, and I've already started planning the 4th hunt, and it's gonna be fucking nuts. So please check out Ordo. We have actual plays scheduled for, I think, maybe the rest of the year, because after Ordo stops, Monday is going to switch over to Duel Bastards Season 2, which we have one more episode to record, but I'm going to start editing and putting those out. And then I think after that, we will probably be able to release the Fate actual play that we are going to probably be starting to record here soon, which I'm very excited about. So that's everything. I plugged way too much.
No, that's perfect. That's awesome. I'm excited about all of those things also. And as always, everybody out there, please check out thewizardsrespite.com. Be able to find all of those episodes there, as well as merchandise, which I am wearing here.
I forgot.
Articles about all things TTRPG. Go check it out, please. And more than anything, just everybody out there, enjoy this game, enjoy this hobby, and keep rolling them dice.